For those of you who are hoping for civil war, unfortunately, I'm going to disappoint you. We are not going to do a civil war again today. My message today is actually palm branches and tears. Did I get on? Okay. And because today is Palm Sunday, I kind of want to reflect on that first Palm Sunday, because it was a strange day. There were all sorts of people praising God because they saw their Messiah riding into Jerusalem. They were expecting him to come in and fix all their problems. And to be honest with you, they thought this was the day that it was going to start. Rome's occupation, corrupt priest. There was a whole lot to celebrate that was going to get overthrown. But unfortunately, that same crowd that welcomed Jesus would just a few days later begin to shout, "Crucify him." But meanwhile, while they're praising God, Jesus is entering the city with tears in his eyes. Why? On such a day, as there are so many divergent emotions. Plainly, Jesus knew something the crowd did not. Jesus understood their expectations were about to be crushed because it wasn't going to go the way they had planned. The account is well documented in Luke 19, verses 35 through 44. And they brought it to Jesus, throwing their cloaks on the colt. And they saw Jesus and set Jesus on it. And as he rode along, they spread their cloaks on the road. As he was drawing near, already on the way to the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of his disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works that he had seen, saying, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest." And some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." And he answered, "I tell you, if they were silent, the very stones would cry out." And when he drew near to the city, he wept over it, saying, "Would you that even you had known on this day the things that would make for peace. But now they are hidden from your eyes. For the day will come upon you when your enemies will set up a barricade around you and surround you and hem you in on every side and tear you down to the ground, you and your children within you. And they will not leave one stone upon another, because you did not know the time of your visitation." I think probably no other day like Palm Sunday exemplifies how little man understands God's plans. To be honest, human logic would suggest if the Messiah was coming into Jerusalem, he was there to conquer things and set things right. That's what I would expect out of a Messiah. And unfortunately, while the people didn't understand exactly what God was doing, they were not completely wrong. Jesus was there to conquer and set things right. Just not the things that the people thought they were going to get. Jesus saw a bigger problem than Rome and corrupt priest. The biggest problem in mankind, the death sentence of sin. Isaiah 53, 1 through 12 reads, "Who has believed what is heard from us? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, like a root out of dry ground. Had been no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by man, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, and one from whom men hid their faces. He was despised, he was esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that he was led to the slaughter, like a sheep that was before the shears and silent, so he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away, and for his generation was considered that he was cut off from the land of the living, stricken for the transgressions of my people. And they made his grave with the wicked and with a rich man in his death, although he had done no violence, and there was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him. He had put him to grief. When his soul makes an offering for guilt, he shall see his offspring. He shall prolong his days. He will of the Lord shall prosper to his hand. Out of the anguish of his soul he shall see and be satisfied. By the knowledge shall the righteous one, my servant, make many of accounted righteousness, and he shall bear their iniquities. My eyes are getting a little blurry, sorry folks. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the many, that he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul to death and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he bore the sin of many and made the intercession for the transgressors. Jesus' mission looked nothing like what those people 2,000 years ago were looking for. They had a lot of problems, and they saw solutions in a Messiah. And unfortunately, the problems that they thought were the most oppressive were not the ones that Jesus was coming to solve. So that Palm Sunday started out with a lot of misconceptions about Jesus, and with Jesus weeping over the city. Jesus understood what they were expecting. He knew that the same people praising him that Palm Sunday would just a few days later be screaming, "Crucify him." He understood that when their expectations were not met, they would not stay. And I think for Jesus, that understanding that even his closest disciples still did not get it, that we still didn't understand. I don't know. I keep thinking what it must have felt like for Jesus to experience all that, to see the disillusionment, the not understanding, to understand that even after 3 years of ministry and explaining, they still didn't understand. They weren't getting it. As a human, I think I would have had questions. Did I fail? Did I do something wrong? That's, of course, a human emotion. Jesus understood much more than I do. But I think it's so often when I see Jesus weeping over the city of Jerusalem, it causes me to ask the question, am I anything like those people laying palm branches before Jesus 2,000 years ago? Am I disillusioned about what I expect God to do or not to do? Am I coming to God with my plans, with my agendas, and not looking to God's? Is Jesus weeping over my mindset today as he did that day? The truth of it is, we are too often, as Christians, drawn to an agenda drawn to plans, drawn to situations. And we do not leave room for God to explain. In fact, we almost don't accept that God might have a different plan than us. That there might actually be something other than my own feelings that should sway what goes on. I'm really wondering sometimes if perhaps in our day and age, I resemble those palm branch layers more than I should. How often do I come before God with my agendas, with my ideas, with my solutions, with my plan for what God should do? The truth of it is, in today's world, you will hear plenty of people that are espousing plenty of weird, different ideas. Many will oftentimes tell you that there are many ways to heaven. The idea that Jesus was the only way just doesn't fit. I think too often when I see that coming from pulpits, from religious leaders, that I wonder, are they the same folks that laid palm branches on Sunday and screamed "Crucify" on Friday? Those folks were expecting something completely different. Those folks were wanting a Messiah that fit their agenda. They wanted it to go their way. But the truth of it is, God has always been very clear that there is only one way, and that is His. John 14, 6 through 7. Jesus said to him, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had known me, you would have known the Father also. From now on, you do know Him, and you have seen Him." I have had that verse thrown back to me and says, well, that comes from a flawed Bible. It's corrupt. It cannot be trusted. And I will smile when that happens, but I will definitely disagree, because that Bible also says this about itself in John 1, 1 through 5. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through Him, and without Him, not anything was made. In Him was life, and the life was light of man, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The truth is, I can dismiss the Bible. I can even dismiss Jesus. And this is why Jesus was weeping. Because God does not follow man's plans. We are a people who want to do things differently than God. We just had Spring Body, and of course when you have Spring Body, you have a lot of committees that get together, and we have decisions, and we make things, and we decide things. And I thought about it for a moment. I thought, if I were to form a committee, we're going to go, God, First Friends here in Marshtown, we're going to have a committee to help you figure out how to bring salvation to the world. And I've got a group of people here, and we're going to just figure this out for you. If you were on that committee, would any of you choose to send the Son of God to die for sinners, who many will reject that Son of God? Would you sacrifice the only Son of God to save the wicked? Now, I'm here to tell you, I've been on a lot of committees. And I can tell you, I've tried to convince committees of different directions, and I don't think I could find a committee that would go, that makes perfect sense. And yet, that is exactly what God did. An infinite and all-powerful God died for a broken and sinful people. the vast majority of whom will reject him. It does not make sense. And unfortunately, Jesus wept because he knew it didn't make sense and that we would not get it. I think as I try to understand Jesus weeping, I get a little bit of an understanding, maybe perhaps a little insight of God's frustration. When I have a dog, we've had several dogs, and Molly has a tendency to get herself hurt many, many ways. She goes out running around thinking she's a farm dog, and she's really not. But she thinks she is. And she will come in all cut up and bruised. And so we've had to deal with many injuries over the years. And what's frustrating is when they have an injury and you bandage it and you try to take care of it, and what does the dog do? It starts to lick the wound. It opens the wound back up. And it's frustrating because you know this is the worst thing you can do, dog. Don't do this. You are doing the wrong thing. And I think as I think about that analogy, that must be how God looks at me some days. Like, Rick, what is wrong with you? Why can't you see this is hurting you? I suspect Jesus wept because we just weren't getting it. His followers had other plans, other ways forward. And all they were doing was licking the wound and making it worse. And they just didn't understand. Isaiah 55, 6 through 9 says, "Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake their way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. Let him return to the Lord, that he may have compassion on him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, declare the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." 2,000 years ago, we didn't get it. Even the disciples who he had trained for 3 years didn't get it. They could not understand that Palm Sunday, what was about to take place. And Jesus wept. But the question comes back to me. Is Jesus weeping over me today? Because I don't get it. I am not seeing his plan. And maybe as we celebrate Palm Sunday, we need to take a moment and ask ourselves, are we following God? Or are we laying down palm branches with our agendas on them? The truth of it is, Palm Sunday is a wonderful opportunity to see God's plan and to celebrate it. We have 2,000 years of history to see the work of salvation played out. We have seen it change lives. We have seen it take people that were broken and restore them. We have seen God's healing in mankind, if he will allow it. We do need to be praising God. But we also realize he brought hope to the hopeless. Isaiah said, "But he was pierced for our transgressions, and he was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him the chastisement was brought to us with peace. And by his wounds we are healed." Jesus went to a cross willingly. I've heard too many people talk about how the Romans killed Jesus or the Jews killed Jesus. And I'm here to tell you, my friends, there is a little truth in that. But if I want to tell you, as an old police officer who's guilty of Jesus' death, I have but to go walk and look in a mirror. I only have to look into this room. We, each and every one of us, are responsible for Jesus Christ's death on that cross. He died for my sin. He died for your sin. He did it willingly because of his love. Jesus wept because we didn't get it. Perhaps this Palm Sunday would be a good time to reassess that and ask myself, am I laying palm branches before God, wanting him to fulfill my agenda? Or am I praising a God who laid down his life so that I might have eternal life? Something to think about on a Palm Sunday. Thank you.